Hey everybody, welcome back to Bleeding Cool's weekly recap of American Horror Story Cult Season 7. We're going to be taking a look at Episode 9, Drink the Kool-Aid. My name is Ray Fluck. I work the television and sometimes film beat for Bleeding Cool. If you don't know, we do a live blog every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for American Horror Story Cult, and then we have the recap ready to go the following week just to make sure you get up to speed for the new episode. Yes, we are on episode 9. That means we only have episode 10, which is tonight, and then next week, episode 11. I can't believe it's over already. Again, I want to say Ryan Murphy, good run so far. Very, 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 very optimistic. I think you're going to be able to stick the landing on this. Very happy about that. But let me dive right in. We've got a lot of things to cover. Not that a lot happened, but a very, very intense episode. So I got my notes here ready to go. We start off first with a tour of cult leaders. All built around the suicide aspect of it, and you can see already just from the title where this is going. There's some great lines in the beginning. Evan Peters again making the case as to why he should be getting an Emmy nomination for this season. We start off with Heaven's Gate. One of the great quotes is, many of the lucky bastards had themselves castrated. Yeah. Moving on to David Koresh. He had divine semen, holy ejaculate. And then we move on to Jim Jones, or as he refers to him, the Kanye of cult leaders was Jim Jones. Interesting little crash course in history. Some really, truly great tasteless humor in those regards when you consider what we're talking about. But it gave us a little bit of a background as to where Kai was, because it's Kai who is telling all of his little Hitler Youth people about them. And he says to them in a very ominous way, because times are changing. So we have a feeling from the title and from what we've seen, there's going to be a little bit of Kool-Aid test coming up. So then we go to credits, obviously. Creepy credits. Great job American Horror Story does. Then we start with the council meeting, which Kai had referenced before we went to the opening credits. Kai basically is there to do a couple of things. One, he's there to get the council to vote in his favor, which of course they do, about restricting the community's access to certain websites. So again, cult controlling the flow of information. They're already controlling the security. Also, he announces that he's making a run for Senate, and not so subtly threatens the life of the person who may be holding the seat or anybody who may be running, when it's brought up that there may be somebody who's actually going for that seat already in 2018. So Kai getting a little bit bold and public with the things that he's doing. I think that's leading to a little sloppiness I think we're going to be touching upon later on. Hopefully that sound of me turning paper wasn't so loud. So then we go to Allie and Ivy. We're getting a total role reversal here. Allie is just giving Ivy the business in regards to everything that has gone on, everything Ivy put her through, and Ivy's trying to be open and honest to her, and I respect that. But you see now, it's just Allie's in full Macbeth mode, Ivy's in full breakdown Lady Macbeth mode. And then we see in that scenario, Oz is brought back in, and initially it's a little awkward, but we really see that this is a different Allie at this point. Allie gives Oz a twisty comic. We know now that clowns, holes, bees, all that stuff, Allie's moved way, way beyond that, and that was very symbolic. And Oz is vibing on it, because Heat starts taking back to Allie very, very quickly, which is really nice to see. Needless to say, Winter is not exactly well received by Allie, understandably. And what we find also is that Allie, Ivy and Winter seem to really be done with Kai at this point. Allie, again, as we've been sensing since she's been back, she's got some other levels that are in play at this point that we're not seeing yet, but we're going to see some semblance of as this rolls along. Back at the compound, we see that the Hitler Youth have gathered up Allie, Ivy, Winter, and Oz. He brings them downstairs where all the other guys are, and this is now where you start to see the big silver pot and the labels and the cups and ladles and cups, and you start to get a sense of now we know where this is going to go. We absolutely know where this is going to go. Hope is brought in from wherever she's been in isolation, and the first thing she does is she makes a go at Winter. Not surprising considering Winter is the reason why she's in the situation she's in. But having said that, I'm still not buying into those two being enemies. It's interesting. Now, how that could tie into what Allie's doing, or if it's separate, I'm not sure. But again, I'm still not completely buying that Hope and Winter aren't on the same page, even if Allie necessarily isn't. We see at one point, as Kai is instructing all of them to drink the Kool-Aid, one of his members resists, and he instructs Gary to shoot him, and Gary does not hesitate. So Gary takes them out. And what a surprise, as what I was predicting during the live blog. Give myself a couple extra points, which I don't always get. There is no poison. It was a test. It was a test of loyalty. Again, I think it's the process of Kai starting to weeding out the weak from the strong. I don't, for example, imagine Gary's going to be lasting long. Gary may be a great lackey. He may be great somebody to send out to do stuff. But I don't see Gary making the cut in the long run. But hell, he's useful to have around now. We now get to a situation where it's Kai, Ivy, Allie, and the Oz situation. And this is where it gets really, really strange. Because essentially what I've been speculating, and I think we touched upon here in a couple recaps, Kai's essentially saying, you know what? I went down to the sperm clinic. I made sure everything was set and ready to go. Oz is my kid. I was the donor that got you guys pregnant. And Ivy and Allie now are freaking the hell out. Completely freaking the hell out. What's interesting is that we get now where Oz is becoming very comfortable with Kai. Kai is asking that Oz stay over. They're already starting to talk to each other, like in referring to Daddy, all of these things. So there's a comfort factor there, and Ivy seems really surprised that Allie's okay with Oz staying there. But from the reality of it, I mean, Allie's a smooth operator. She realizes, what's the point right now? You create a big hoopla. It's going to blow your cover. He's going to keep the kid anyway. There's a numbers game. Why fight it? Why fight it? Again, Allie is definitely the voice of reason right now. Ivy has completely shifted her role in this situation. They start looking, the biggest thing right now is to find out essentially how true this is. And there's a time now and there's a time later on where Allie especially is doing some research to see how this could have happened. At this point, she's doing it with Ivy. Later on, she goes to the fertility clinic and really leans heavily on a nurse to help her out. And we see that she asks the nurse to help her out with one other thing. And we're going to find out what that is as we get towards the end. So keep that in mind. But we're not done with the Allie and the Ivy situation. I mean, if you thought everything that had gone on was just going to be settled by an intense conversation earlier and then a shared concern over Oz, no. Allie has moved on, and I think the line she uses is very telling, where she says, tonight we start over. It's interesting. I think we is an interesting reference, and what that means. I think Ivy thinks it's we start over in a sense that we start over as a couple. What it turns out is Allie means I start over with Oz, you start over with working on your next regeneration, and whatever you're going to be reincarnated as. Because, as we see, Allie wants revenge on Ivy for everything that is done, and Allie makes no bones about it. She even states for the fact that, you know, revenge was the thing that cured her. Revenge is what got her past all of these useless, pointless fears. It's what got her to this level where she wants revenge on Ivy, and she tells Ivy this. And Ivy, of course, thinks it's old Allie, thinks she's going to go back to being old Allie, mocks her, basically treats her like she's some James Bond villain, like just divulging her plan, and Ivy's just like, well, you'll never do it. And again, in that typical great moment where Allie's just like, I'm not telling you this because it's something I'm planning to do. I'm telling you this because essentially, how's the meal? And we realize very quickly, yeah, that's arsenic in that meal that Ivy's been enjoying, that she was eating, even as she was mocking Allie, telling her about how she wasn't strong enough to go at Ivy and wasn't strong enough to get revenge. Well, Ivy's going to be spending some time dead in the trunk of a car rethinking that whole process because Allie is now officially single and she's got her sights set on Oz and getting the hell out of the situation. At least I think, we think she does. We see Kai and Oz. Oz is turning out to be the typical kid he should be. He is smart, he looks things up, and to be blunt, he challenges his dad's shit when his dad is talking bullshit. And that's what he's doing. But Oz doesn't hesitate to challenge Kai in front of his followers, which I think is interesting because when pushed, Kai starts to become exactly like his dad. The subtleties with regards to trying to get Oz to be quiet or trying to take cookies away from him as some form of punishment just because he dared to correct his father, who is just, again, stringing lines and lines of BS to the followers. we also start to see that Kai and Allie meet up after everything that went down between Allie and Ivy. And interesting that Kai doesn't waste any time and goes right into that manwich, big time. So he's already having that level of trust he may not have even realized with Allie. Allie getting his trust helps when she's blatantly honest with him and says, "Look, I killed Ivy. She's in the trunk of my car." Blatant, straight out, no hesitation. Really, really impressive. And also tells him that it's true. It was destiny. You were selected. I knew it was you. You were the donor I picked. We were destined to have a family. Essentially bullshitting Kai. And we realized that that's what the plan was, that she had set up the fertility clinic. She's got the advantage on Kai big time right now. More so than I ever realized. And while Kai is really looking to kind of recreate that family he never had, Allie's thinking, essentially, how do I cut out the heart of this thing and get out from where I'm going to go? Unless that's, again, what she really wants. I wouldn't be surprised seeing Allie leading this cult by the end of it. But again, we also don't know what factor Hope and Winter are going to play. On a side note real quick, I'm fascinated by the fact that we really do see large groups of women coming into play with each of the seasons. And I'm wondering if that's not some kind of thing that Ryan Murphy's been building to all along. If you look at it, for some reason, with Sarah Paulson and the cult, I can't help but think of the Coven season. So there's a little bit of that going on in my head. I'm curious to see if that strings along, because I know they want to connect up all the season. But anyway, I digress. Thank you guys for joining me for this recap. Hope you liked it. If you liked it, if there are things I missed, if there are things you want to challenge, things you want to bring up, don't hesitate. Comment down below. Send me some information. My social media contacts are there too. Don't forget Tuesday night. Tonight we're actually going to be taking a look at, if you're watching this on Tuesday, I should say, we're going to be taking a look at the 10th episode of the penultimate episode of the season, Charles Manson in Charge, which again I think should be another great performance from Evan Peters. But we'll be pre-gaming at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, starting up at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you open up the page, check on bleedingcool.com, have it open, see what we're saying while you're enjoying the episode. Again, 10 p.m. Thank you guys for joining me. Look forward to seeing you online with me tonight and joining me for the recap next week. Take care, folks.